Hello and welcome to the Roundtable Podcast. I'm Shogun. Today we have special guest Dr. Jace to discuss the red pill versus the blue pill as an open discussion topic. So before we get started, just make sure you follow us on YouTube, on all our social media. We're on pretty much every social media, but most of all, join the Roundtable Discord server. Just Google Roundtable Discord. That being said, welcome Dr. Jace. How are you, sir?
I am absolutely wonderful. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Would you like to perhaps introduce your topic that you wanted to discuss today and let us know how you wanted to approach it?
Yeah, sure. So, kind of the basis of all the red pills is the blue pill is understanding came from the Matrix 1999 scene. Basically, the red pill is unpleasant truth. Blue pill is blissful ignorance. So, I kind of wanted to dive deep into the lifestyles of people who particularly choose the blue pill and particularly choose the red pill. And then I kind of wanted to see if anybody subscribes to the certain ideas or believes an idea of a red pill and a blue pill. And I wanted to dive deep into the politics, how this may affect politics, and the multi-dimensional layers that this philosophy can enter.
To be clear, you're not referencing the blue and red pill to be political in nature, like Republican, Democrat. You're referring specifically to the Matrix ideology.
In a way, yes, but also that's why I said multi-dimensional, because the red pill and the blue pill can represent to anybody. That's why I'm asking you guys to just bring up any red pill thoughts. I've heard it mentioned a couple times server in past discussions, and I would like to bring it up. I actually might want to have Merlin kind of bring up some of his thoughts. Blue pill.
Blue pill. You think I'm blue pill? No, I'm just playing. So this is my understanding of the red pill, blue pill dichotomy. It does come from the movie Matrix. You know, Morpheus offers Neo blue or red pill, blue representing blissful ignorance, and red and basically uncomfortable truths. And it took I guess like a culture. It took off culturally through mostly the pickup artist community. The red pill kind of was referring to how the nature of women, how they truly act, and stuff like that. And then from there, it was kind of adopted by other ideologies or philosophies, such as politics or whatnot and stuff. But yeah, my experience with red pill, and I would consider myself red pill. At least I hope I am. You know, I wouldn't want to be blue pill because just blissful ignorance doesn't appeal to me anymore. Like once you go red pill, that's the thing about being red pill. Like once you learn uncomfortable truths, that's all you see, and it's very hard to go back and to be in a state of denial. So my introduction to the whole idea of red pill blue pill was my study, I guess, of the pickup artist community and stuff like that. I did quite extensive research into intersexual dynamics, especially with like authors such as Rollo Tomasi, with The Rational Male and other books that he's also written. And it was just mainly because I was very interested in learning the psychology of women, the psychology of dating, for the most part. Because getting out of like an 8-year marriage and then jumping right back into like the dating market and community was completely just mind-boggling, baffling. I didn't understand like how things were, how people operate, or how the dating scene was. I was very blue-pilled in nature. Through my marriage, I didn't even understand things as simple as like shit tests. Where women would test men. Basically push their buttons until they, to see just what kind of man they really are. And I can't believe I didn't even know any of that kind of stuff. But it went deeper than that though. It didn't, I just didn't stop there. I didn't just watch the pickup videos on YouTube. I read the Rollo Tomasi book. I read books from Robert Greene on the laws of human nature. Very good book. I recommend it to anybody. Also, his book on the art of seduction. And seduction is just not about picking up women. It's also about basic conversations and basically being very persuasive. So I mean, I don't want to go on. I don't want to steal the spotlight from you, Dr. Jace. So that's pretty much my introduction to it. So and it opened my eyes, right? Like instead of just like accepting the narrative, as I used to, I began to look into uncomfortable truths, and sometimes it's painful and it hurts. But that kind of it leads you down the rabbit hole to other avenues. And it can get kind of confusing, the terms red pill, blue pill, and there's many other pills too, like the purple pill, which is kind of like you accept or the truth of the red pill, but you try to kind of blend them in with your blue pill ways, because being blue pilled is very comfortable. And it can also another kind of terminology you can use to this as like woke or not woke and stuff like that. So in like when I mean it gets kind of like confusing, like especially when it gets to like politics, for instance. You can be a Democrat and like be red pilled about Democrat things, or blue pilled about it, or you can be, it's not like people get kind of hooked up on the colors and stuff like that. But I think Jay says it best when it's just an uncomfortable truth versus blissful ignorance. So yeah, would you like to take it from there, Jace?
Yeah, so I would like to, because it's an open discussion. Has anybody in here ever had a moment where they realized that they accepted uncomfortable truths and they red pilled? Is there anybody in here that still holds on to a blue ideology? And I'm curious if anybody has or still holds on to a blue pill, but also I'm curious if anybody has gone red pill in any sort of way, accepted uncomfortable truths or unpleasant truths.
I don't think, like, just if I should say, I don't think red pill is always. I just jumped into conversation now after hearing what Merlin was saying, but I accept that kind of thought on it, like being woke or not woke, because I see sometimes like people, when kids, especially like young, like teens and 20s, when they pick up this red pill, blue pill ideology, it's more applicable in their lives towards women. So they kind of commandeer or hijack this conversation or discussion and just use it about that. But I don't think it's. I think it's like, yeah, what Merlin, when you were saying, like more like being woke or being aware to things that are happening around you and how you're living your life. Like you got to figure out that in your life, like you have control over certain things, right? So if you let that control to other people, it's if you fuck up, it's because of yourself, really, because you let that kind of responsibility go. So being red pilled, I guess, is just being woken up, or like being aware of like social constructs or things that keep us going, and like like aware of the strategies that people use in life, I guess. Anyway, go on, boys. Like, make this conversation. I want to hear it.
I mean, I could say something a little bit about unpleasant truths, but don't call me crazy. So, obviously, I'm going to bring up aliens. So, imagine a world that extraterrestrials have been lying to humans about their place in this universe for 10,000 years since the first cataclysm. We've had multiple on Earth. The oldest bones we have of humans are 300,000 years old. We can assume that beings have been visiting in multiple types for many hundreds of thousands of years. We can understand the influence of the spirituality of our species. Synthetic telepathy and the Gnostic archons, that they call them, have influenced Earth for a long time and have been influencing world governments for 10,000 years. So when you look through the world through that lens and understand that a lot of what's been set up and going on isn't purely organic, but it's not from God either. So it's not God sitting there making decisions, or the devil, or anything else. However, these deities are the mediums that these beings will play through, but they're simply hominids like us, playing around with our species like a video game. And that's kind of and see, the reason why I kind of don't like the Matrix concept about red pill, blue pill stuff is that when the ETs communicated to me, this is what they used. They used the Matrix scenario because they use pop culture mediums to communicate through, and they want to mindfuck the person to think in the Neo or the hero's journey or whatever else. So the concept of the red pill, not even the highest ranking intelligence officials are fully in on the red pill because we've had our realities manipulated on this planet for 10,000 years, if not more. We've had our civilizations toyed with and fucked with for 10,000 years. So nearly everything that we know in regards to the true history of things is going to have heavy manipulation from these interactions because they've been here, whether you guys want to admit it or not. And so that's how I view the red pill, is that finding out that not only are we not alone in the universe, but that most of human history has been a video game for a couple of groups of ETs that wanted to be God with us.
Guys,
And
I'm stuck in my fucking truck,
and
guys.
have been
I'm about to go outside.
have been doing so in regards to the religious interventions on this planet, have been controlling and manipulating governments through the religious interventions on this planet, through spirit-like neurological technology that influence our consciousness. And that's what I have to say about the red pill. It's a type of matrix in a sense. There is technology involved.
You know,
Have you seen that movie, NSA, have you seen that movie, They Live? Because I think red pill and blue pill, like that ideology comes from like the Western audiences or kids, you know, who've watched Matrix and that and figured out about enlightenment. Because I think red pill, blue pill, woke, not woke, all these words, they've been around forever. These concepts have been around forever. And what you're explaining is interesting, right? Like there's a movie called They Live, right? I'd say that's a very early, you know, like red pill, blue pill kind of movie. It's just basically like there's this two blokes, they're being fucked around by their work, and their work situation and the advertising in the whole country is set up to facilitate for these, you know, like top 1% aliens who come and live in our planet just for the hell of it, for fun.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
that's like, it's a movie in that, I'll just quickly say the plot that I was going to say. It's like in that movie, there's an interesting fight, right? It's one of the longest fights in any movie scene. So if you guys are like, it's got Rodney Piper in it and some other fellow. But the whole point of that fight, I think, was to show that sometimes it's really hard to, like, you know, convince someone of a blue pill or wake up people who are just living the life of, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna get my job, get my big chick, you know, chick with big tits, get my kids, you know, get my fucking car, watch my wrestling and stuff, and that's life. I think, you know, you can live that blue pill life, and then that's what people are identifying as comfortable. You know, if we go by the programming, we get an easy life, we get set up, we don't have to fight so much. But an inherent part of humanity is that, you know, that freedom thing. We always want to do things on our own. Free will has been part of our like Bibles, our religious texts, and everything, right? So yeah,
it's a lot. They Live actually is a good allegory, with a little bit less modernization to it, in that these guys have been doing this shit to us for thousands of years. So it's a lot darker. The truth of the matter is a lot darker, and it's harder to accept. It's very actually hard to accept in regards to what is going on in relation to our connections to these beings out there. So and that'll be what, you know, disclosure will be the biggest thing in our generation, the military's biggest concern right now. And that's everything else we see right now in public. I mean, if you notice, there's a few guys named Putin, you know, George Bush, and then the leaders of China. They're all Masons. They're all in on this esoteric cult around the ET scenario. So the real red pill is that these ET groups are fucking around with our world leaders through this stuff and laughing at us. So there is a literal group that is in on the secret, that is not telling the world, while they play fucking video games and empire building and divide and conquer and all the esoteric strategies of the mystery schools of Egypt. And these beings have been around since Egypt. They were the guys that helped them, you know, proliferate their empires.
okay, so like like getting back to red pill and blue pill, guys. I've been talking a bit, and NSA's been talking a bit about, like, you know, what we think on it. I want to hear some other guys and girls like voice up, like give us your ideas and what it's about. So far, I guess we've identified that like red pill and blue pill, when we're talking about this, where we seem to be end up talking about like things that are going on in our planet that not a lot of people are aware of and that have an influence upon us, right? So then I could, from the conversation so far, I could guess that being a red pillar or someone like that is someone who's just like a bit woken up and aware of things, or who, you know, who can see things sort of. And the blue pillars are the people who just like they don't care about that being woke thing. That's, you know, that's irrelevant to life. Life is all about, you know, the program or something.
The woke term, right? It's sort of been adopted by the blue pill crowd as their way of saying I'm aware of all the terrible conditions in the world and I'm adequately sympathetic to it. It seems to me like the real difference between blue pill, red pill distinction is whether you actually understand human nature and how the psychology of large groups like influences culture and how you and economics and all of that. It's like if you the typical blue pill person is much more prone to communism and identity politics and so forth. And typical red pill person, I think, has a calmer, more nuanced understanding of how people actually function. Like Marx, I think, fundamentally misunderstood how people would or would not be able to cooperate. And seems like to be at the root of a lot of it.
Okay, that's important. Yeah. What else have we got out there?
Yeah, I think red pill is more like libertarian. I think something like that, where you're more individual and anarchistic, a little bit more self-reliant type stuff because you're more aware of the world.
Yeah, I would agree with everybody's own characteristic and use. Becoming red pilled, as mentioned, definitely comes originally from the Matrix. But the way I saw this used was on 8chan and 4chan. This proliferation was maybe a year or so prior to the Trump election when it was hyper popularized. But for me, etymologically, this began with things like white nationalism, Holocaust denial, so on and so forth. And I think those people still hold to being the kind of founders of the term, although it has kind of spread with the MAGA, I don't know what to call it, phenomenon. It was popularized into the culture. So it's interesting that all these different terms are being used to mean awoken when, as far as I can tell, its original context was primarily white nationalists, Holocaust deniers, and people who were far right underground conspiracy theorists, people who were digging through the WikiLeaks documents exposing international pedophilia and were involved in the outing of Pizzagate.
I think there's wait, just on that last point, because it was interesting. I think there's a point to be recognized on that, right? And that's why sometimes the red pill, like what you're saying, can get confused with the right wing thing. When we're looking, like, if the problem is economics, right? So if I'm riding on the streets with other people of other races and we're all riding and we feel hatred towards each other, we all live in the same system. So it might be that we're not getting paid enough, we're inadequately taken care of, or the government institution is failing us, right? So therefore we're fighting each other. So I think, like, when you get into that, I think that's where the white nationalism, those camps, they kind of were frontiering this, like, this word, you know what I mean? Back in the 2006 elections, I remember memeing and all that. But I don't think it's specifically associated with, like, white nationalism anymore. You're right with that. And furthermore to the point, I guess that what I was saying was that if it's an economics thing and we look into economics, then we start seeing business, right? And who owns businesses. I can see why people are misled in that direction. And then start identifying, like, J talk. They start talking what you call J talk in that circle. But that's just one. I think that's just one aspect of it at the moment. Like, because it's become something more than that, right? Like, you've got this woman who made that movie, The Red Pill, yeah? And she was kind of laying down some foundations of what she thinks it is in terms of men's rights activists and how men and women do have different roles in society. And often this is used, by political agencies to kind of, I don't know, get votes or something like that. Like if they pit us against each other.
Yeah, I would be interested to know whether it's actually true that the originators were the people you're talking about, the white nationalists and such. My first introduction to it was in the context of feminism, anti-feminism, men's rights stuff.
I have to agree with Icarus on that point too, but I don't want to completely ascribe to that because I believe I've heard that point that you've also made, Raul, which is very interesting, right? Because and like JC, he asked a question earlier, and I'm still perplexed by it. I'm trying to think: am I still blue pilled in certain areas? And I don't know if you can actually know if you're actually still blue pilled or not, because I don't know if it's willful or ignorance or blissful ignorance. Sometimes it is willful, for instance, I think people who are Christians are red pilled. They've accepted the truth. And people who are not Christian, they are blue pill willfully because they understand. Or maybe they don't understand it's the truth. Maybe that's a bad example. But, but my understanding of the original context of the word and how it was adopted from the movie The Matrix was because of the, I guess, kind of like the men's rights videos and stuff like that. And that red pill video I watched, by the way, it's been quite a while. It's actually the only video on YouTube that I purchased. And she did an okay job at that, but there was a lot of stuff left unsaid. But thinking saying things of not said yet. Lars, I wanted you to put in some input because you had some good points earlier when we were talking in the VC about this.
Yeah, basically, there's a quote by someone. I can't exactly remember the name, but it's basically if you're going to branch out your word and your philosophy to um every person inside of your community or inside the society in general, the best way to do it is by putting it through the simplest forms possible, which is making it simple, maybe short and sweet to the point, or not overcomplicating it to the point where a person who might not know more as much about this as someone who does will not grasp that concept, and it takes more time to be able to try to explain that to them than it is actually teaching them the narrative. So it's like red pill is woke, blue pill not woke, purple pill is basically what was purple pill, man?
Well, it's a mixture of both red and blue, and I'm
Yeah,
glad they,
denial.
yeah, for the most part, you know,
Basically, it's putting inside of a general format is denial of the truth, even though you see it, you decide to be ignorant about it. You have black pill, which is being cynical in a sense. So it's like saying it inside that sense of like maybe explain the pills and what they mean inside that short way, or maybe just saying those narratives off of those simple words will reach out to an audience a lot quicker, maybe grasp if they want to hear it, they'll grasp it quicker, and there's won't be any questions about it. Then you could go into the details of what you're talking about because they get the general idea of it. You need to get the general idea before you get the details of that idea, because not everyone's going to know what you're talking about. So it's like giving all these complex terms of things and maybe making it to this. Even there's like a green pill as well. I don't even know what that is.
yeah,
And
you know,
it's just like those type of things. It's like it'd be easier just making it short, simple, and sweet as a phrase than it would be as just this pill. Because if someone sees green pill beside purple and all this, they're going to be thinking they're eating Skittles. You know what I'm saying? Like
that's funny.
it's kind of like inside that sense. They don't know what they're looking at. Someone like me or you is going to know what we're looking at whenever we see that. You know what we're saying? But not everyone does, especially general populist terms. Wouldn't. It's more of an internet culture term.
That's interesting how you liken them like just like to almost like red, green, blue. You know, like when it's red and blue, it's two things. You're this or that. It's easy, right? But then three or four other things come in. It does become like Skittles. It becomes like a horoscope to me after a while. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was another quick point that I'd add on that, like on the white supremacy 2006 points when like certain people were just voting for Trump and saying that's red pilled. You know, that's woke. That's voting for like white nationalist America. Dude, then like look at the movement, right? The 2016, those same people that were making all these memes and propaganda after Jared Kushner started getting more and more in office, right? And Israeli affairs became the front of American interests. They started, backing down on Trump, like, so they could be seen as, like I said, I heard someone before saying something like, you think you're red pilled, right? You think you're woken in the zone of knowing, and then all of a sudden, right, you've been misled, so then now you're a blue pill again. So, I mean, that's what these camps would have experienced, right? So I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking that sometimes you might think you're aware and awoke of things, but you might just be living again another lie or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, basically, in a sense, what can be just as ignorant as your ignorant bliss with the blue pill is what you're saying, because you could take
yeah,
your woke term into a not not right format, basically is what you're saying. But then again, the definition of what woke is can be construed between what people believe would be woke, right? So it's like what would be the thing of woke? What is woke by this narrative that we're talking about here? What would be woke? Because we need to find a common ground here of what woke is before we can find not woke thus on, right?
It's based off what we're talking about. Basically, red pill and blue pill are very separate, and we've already basically defined those down. I think it could be anything really, but it's off the topic of what we're talking about. For example, let's make it easier for everybody. Let's talk about current events. What do you think? Who do you think is the red pill in the and the blue pill and the current events. And anybody can start with a general topic.
Okay, so let's take Trump and Biden for example, right? I would say that Trump is red pilled, right? Like he's like on Twitter. I don't read his Twitter. I honestly really don't follow the news. But I get a good amount of information being here at the Roundtable Discord server. You can find us by googling Roundtable Discord server. But because he's like basically promoting the use of or not the use of, but conspiracy theories, right? And that's essentially red pill knowledge, like truth, uncomfortable truth. Whereas Biden would be blue pill, and I understand like the dichotomy of like the different party colors. They happen to coincide in this instance, but there's a lot of willful ignorance when it comes to Biden, especially with his past, with his cognitive abilities right now. I mean, like he just seems like a puppet, and the Democratic Party just seems to be just like, oh yeah, this is our candidate. This is the best person in the entire country in our party that represents us. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure this is actually the greatest example because Biden doesn't really even have a political philosophy. He's just mentally disabled, and so the people that are blue pilled, right? They're just voting instinctively against the person they don't like. I think that's probably what's going on here. But
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy to me that after it kind of came out that Biden might not be all there in the head, like I would have thought that, oh, okay, well, everyone's going to agree that obviously we need to go towards a person who's not mentally disabled. But instead, it's like, oh yeah, so he's mentally disabled, and there's a picture of him kissing on a little girl and shit like that. It's like, so what? He's our candidate, and I'm like, that's really like one thing with the Hillary and the Benghazi, whatever else and blah. That's all like conspiracy, but we're seeing this through observation and through action of what he does, right there, right in front of you, and you still want to say that I support that.
I don't think that Trump and like what Biden thinks is a good choice on what is red pill and blue pill, because I think from what we've gleaned from this conversation so far, being red pill just means that you're aware of certain things. It doesn't mean you know the whole holistic truth, right? But you are somewhat aware of a situation. That means you could be even aware of the fact that you don't know things, right? Whereas the blue pill would suggest that no, these things don't exist anyway, and there's no need for knowing them. What we're taught and what we're like. So I guess I could put it this way: like a red pill is someone who's like a leader in a way, or searching for their own truth, and blue pills might be just followers, in a way. I don't think this that being a red pillar means you know certain things more than others necessarily. It might even mean that you know that there's some shit up, but you just don't know who it is.
So
But
would you largely agree that
how I feel
what's
about
doing in the what you're gonna say? You should.
I just honestly I feel like that woke is kind of like if anyone Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ferris Bueller's friend he was looking at that painting and it kept zooming in on that girl's face, right? Being ignorant and being just one way and completely biased against anything else is that being focused in on that one section of anything right there instead of backing up and seeing the full picture of the concept that was before you. You're instead looking into one solid thing that you see and nothing else around you is believable or acceptable to your mentality. If you back up, see the whole picture, then maybe you have more of a acceptable mindset, more of being able to see everything that's there in front of you, the reality.
Here's my definition of blue pill. If you watch MSNBC and then you turn to CNN in order to get some balance, that's blue pill.
Yeah, because both of them want to have obvious biases in an opinionated format, not even actual factual statements from either point of view, because they're both hard left agenda or hard right agenda.
Yeah, that is a very illustrative example. Thank you for that.
So here's an example, and here's a hot topic in society at the moment. And I wanted to bring this up, and this is one of the questions I wanted to ask everybody. Who do you think is blue pilled or red pilled in the switch? Wearing masks or not wearing masks? Who is blue pilled and who is red pilled? And I want to ask this for everybody. Everybody's open to talking. I want to hear some of your voices as well.
Okay, does anyone want to go first? Because I feel a certain type of way about it.
Well, I think based on the definitions that we've used thus far, I mean, you can have similar actions with different motivations. So some people could be blue-pilled in the sense they turn on the TV, they hear what they should do from first MSNBC and then MSN is wear a mask, so they do. Likewise, somebody could be, turning on Fox News or listening to, whomever else, like normie mainstream so-called right-wing commentators that say, hey, masks are against your rights or whatever idea that they get. And, the point being, if they listen to other people instead of having their own position, then they do it. Likewise, like as a Christian, I, tend towards wearing a mask and more so towards like washing my hands and making sure, that I'm being a good citizen. And I have motivations for that I believe to be, moral in nature and therefore, at least thought through in some manner. But, the point being that somebody could wear a mask or not wear a mask based on total ignorance or some sort of deeper understanding that they have gone to find.
Yeah,
So-
like definitely with the idea of the mask, right? Now, the simple nurse doctor mask that you will see at a hospital, I feel like is not the best way to contain it. But what are they called? Like what D95 or M95
N95s.
masks, things like that. Those are definitely better. It's like one step from a dust mask, basically, right? It has like a little filter on it. Well, you could take another step forward from there and buy a respirator, right? Like a half mask, a respirator with charcoal filters on it, right? That'll definitely keep it out. But the thing is that the idea is not keeping it out, it's societal, you know, compassion for other humans around you is to keep it inside some type of form of sense from being a spread like the way it would be if you were to breathe or project by an accidental cough or something like. Because even though be infected, which you wouldn't know until a couple of weeks, and you don't have any symptoms, it's still the virus. You might be a carrier. So if you cough by accident or by happenstance, without a mask, the propulsion will not hit anything. So therefore, it's going to go as far as you would think it would go, as far as you
Yeah.
throw it. But the mask,
Lars is spitting a hot fire right now, and
it's not like a buffer, right? But
it's actually red pilled to wear your mask, because the people who are refusing to wear their masks right now, they're doing it instinctively because they don't like being told what to do by daddy government, and that isn't thinking as clearly as you would be if you were actually considering risk and so on. And even if you're convinced that there isn't a risk based on the media that you've seen, we're not actually going to know the truth of the matter until a couple of years later, because that's how epidemiology works.
I do like the mask example because, and I think this actually might be a good example for willful ignorance. Because people who actually, I went to the dog park today and I had a little conversation with an old lady about masks. But like, for instance, like when this whole thing started off, like February is like when I started, people started really wearing masks and stuff like that. Everyone was going crazy, like N95. But now paper or cloth masks are just as acceptable, while everybody still knows. Well, I would think most of the public would know that viruses could still be transmitted, or doesn't prevent transmission of the viruses. Is rather just more of a common courtesy, a social courtesy now. So I think that's a pretty interesting parallel to take as an example of this.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of people can seem with the ones who don't want to wear the mask that say fuck this, fuck that, virus isn't real, whatever, are compulsive, selfish people as our society has been taught to kind of be like, as our consumerist base has been over the past couple generations since probably the millennial area. Right? So it's like we're kind of have been taught and kind of been synthesized into the idea that me, let me have what I want, what I think is the right thing because I see it. what I read is the right thing because I see it, right? That could be very easy to get lost into. So you get to a point where you get your Karens or whatnot, right? That's as simple as the same thing of someone licking a whole bunch of fucking deodorants on an aisle, right? It's the selfish, compulsive behavior of that. Oh man, if I do all this, even though that this is going to give me a negative, like, social clout here, I'm still going to do it because it's going to give me some type of attraction or attention to people on a grand scale. I don't care if it's negative. It's compulsive behavior because it's like almost an irresistible urge to be that way without second thought for people because it's easy to get lost like that, right? And that's a main issue with our country. Is that that's as simple as that is as a divide between people who wear masks and who don't, is as complex as it is with people who believe that black people is like believing that black people are the issue or whatever is red pill. It's just as complex as that. You have so many of these little small subsections of divides where it's like it's almost impossible to come back together. It's
Yeah,
almost,
I don't think it's impossible to come back together. I think
it's
with the
not
mask thing,
impossible.
it's like
Nothing's impossible with that.
no, I don't doubt
Hold
that.
on,
But I'm just
Sensei
saying,
had the mic.
let me say this one that on masks and this kind of thing, I think there's like we're talking about red pill, right? And so I think red pill part of being a red pillar is being aware. And if you're aware of like things that are going on, then I guess you have to be adaptable then, right? Because you have a blue pill life, and then you're aware of things, so you change up your life. So for example, you're not getting attention from girls or whatever, you start getting fit, right? Or whatnot. So like say if it's masks, man, I don't think just like wearing a mask makes you a red pill or doing that. I know that this like what you've identified, my bro, are certain reasons why people do or do not wear masks, yeah. But like in certain situations I don't think you need to. And certain situations though you might need to. So it's just like I think it would be about being aware of the situation and understanding what it means to you and other people around you and how that benefits, the everyone. So that's a lack of selfishness there, right? So it's like if you wear a mask, right, like around town, if you're going to work, that's fine. But if you're at home and you don't want to wear a mask or something, or you're gathering with your family, right, and none of your family have been doing that because they were keeping to the same stringent, rules and that, I think it'll be fine. So it's just like it's not. It doesn't like wearing a mask or not wearing a mask is one thing, but it's like knowing when to do it is the other thing. I think that would be the red pill thing. Or what do you reckon?
well,
Because it's like the knowing makes half the difference, doesn't it? That's what this conversation is about. Like this, we've been talking about people who are aware and woke, so there must be a knowledge, right? And like knowledge is like one of the things that we should operate on. So it's like, would you reckon, boys and girls, that like someone who seeks out knowledge is someone who is on a red pill path?
yes,
Like irrespective of what it means to you, like what you said, Merlin, you said harsh truths, right? So for example, I'm seeking out knowledge, right? I want to know where I come from, my ancestry. So even if I find out that there's European or this and that, I have to accept it. I've watched programs where people have been racist, and then they go, okay, let's do a DNA test and see where you come from. And I reckon it'll be red pill to go, hey, look here, I'm willing to open up my mind and see what this thing is and then change my view of things.
yeah,
Would you think those
absolutely.
things are characteristics of a red pill
I
as
would think
opposed to a
so.
blue pill? Because we're trying to
Yeah,
find, that's what this
most
conversation's
definitely.
about.
I would
So
think
it's
so.
like,
Yeah,
like people have identified a lot of things, Christian values, lack of selfishness. So that means empathy. You know what I mean? Like, so we've got religious connotations, morals and teachings that their parents have taught them, because that's how religion is taught to us. We believe it when it's taught by our parents and exercised by our parents. That becomes our kind of thing. So we've got and sometimes the same way our parents teach us certain things, right? So if like, let's say like I'm your parents, right? And I go, all right, girls, you're gonna wear this cloth, and all the boys, you gotta wear this thing now. And you guys go, nah, look, I don't have to wear it certain situations, and that doesn't mean anything about my faith in God, right? I think that'd be red pilled, wouldn't it? Like,
think that
when you
would.
see. So I
Yeah,
think that's where things start getting complicated, even for both sides. Where like so hardlined people have been doing this thing for generations and thousands of years would go, no, you can't do that now. All of a sudden, man, you'd fuck it all up. And then the young kids are like, no, we're red pilled. We know what it's all about. We've seen what you guys do, and we want to keep that value, but we want to change some things up.
yeah. Trying to accepting yourself, or accepting the truth is definitely a red pill trait for sure. Mr. Al, I saw you keying up. Did you want to say something, brother?
Yes. All right. So essentially, the red pill is the truth, and the blue pill is the illusion. it being an illusion means that it can be changed and edited. Like the goalpost moves, the bar is raised. Like in the Matrix, like when they're about to escape, and then just they see a glitch, and then a wall appears, and they can't get through it. Like the rules of the game are changed, like to guarantee that the system wins. While the red pill is the truth, and truth is ugly. You look at the real world; it's all in the Matrix. It's all ugly. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of hardships. It's unchanging. The truth is not a democracy. Like that's just the harsh, cold reality. But then, within the truth, you have the struggle between the man and the machine in the system, and you have that struggle. And that's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that the red pill. I would say there's more of a black pill narrative. If you're only seeing that the reality that you're seeing, you're only seeing one part of it. As there's two parts. There's always a pro and a con to everything that goes on here. Like, yeah, shit right now. America's in such a huge shitter because of our own dumb, convoluted mentality, right? But then again, as we are part of nature, as we are nature, basically, carbon-based life forms, all the plants, trees, and all that keeps us breathing and alive and well. As you take off your shoes and socks and you step into that, you feel absolute tranquil inside of a sense. All that is being thriving over inside the Amazon rainforest. You have only creatures that live there, the only type of species that will live there, and it's all just a beautiful ecosystem of basically controlled chaos inside of a sense of life cycles, right? Food cycles. And then you have this other narrative where Hurricane Harvey takes out a part of fucking the bayou, but you have something else going on as well. Like life is a ever going like spectrum of where you cannot close in on one area, because if you do, then you're not going to see the bigger picture. Like there's things that are happening constantly that you have to see and pay attention to. And I think a red pill idea, as that guy was explaining up there, I was saying one common narrative to everything that he was saying is that it's common sense. It's common sense what he was saying. Yeah, we need to stop having all these dumb ideas that are ignorant and stupid, and we need to just see the bigger spectrum. A bigger commonsensical thing is that whether or not, whatever the hell it is, we're all in the shitter right now. We're all in one common area. We're all
That's
affected by
interesting.
this.
That's
Our
interesting.
economy's affected by this. But
That's
unfortunately,
interesting.
people are all too much inside their empathetic, compulsive, selfish mentality to be able to even see that as a thought process without possible strong connotation towards it or suggestion.
That's a good idea. And now this will lead me into my next question for everybody, because it's an open discussion. Do you think that the red pill or the blue? What do you think? Okay, so let's try to figure this out. What do you think is the product of the red pill or blue pill? And I have a general opinion. Maybe not, and it's not an opinion, but I kind of would use this. Do you think the blue pill is the product of urbanization, and do you think the red pill is the product of rural areas, or do you think it's the complete opposite, that urbanization brought in the red pill, or that the rural areas brought in the blue pill? I want to hear your question. Where do you think the blue pill and the red pill kind of derived in the United States of America and generally in the world in your certain areas? What do you think what is the product of the red pill or the blue pill? And I'm kind of using the spectrum of urbanization and rural areas. So I'm open for discussion, and I would actually like Mr. Ao to speak first because I think he's open.
Okay, thank you. So there was a common theme in movies of that era where it showed like the office life and how boring it was and how mind numbing, and like how it would burn you out and you're just being used as a cog in the machine. Like movies such as Fight Club, or movies like what was it called? Office, where there's this other movie where this guy gets hypnotized, and all of his cares are going. He gets hypnotized to believe that all of his concerns and cares are gone, and then he does a shitty job at his work, and then he gets promoted as a result and stuff like that. But the the whole thing is that the blue pill represents that system, like that, just accepting that office corporate job, and then all of your needs will be handed to you, and you just go and you just do what you're told as some machine. And so it is kind of like industrialism, or it's the city life. Whereas like an escape from that would be more of a rural, perhaps country life that's kind of seen as poor or like ignorant or hick-like in some ways. So yeah, that's my answer.
No, it's a good question, and that was a good answer. But I do, because like you can go both routes. You know, like uh, if you were to go blue pill, like how he gave the example of working at an office or something like that. Just accepting that kind of reality. Um, you know, that might be considered blissful ignorance or whatever. But I do believe that these, like the path of civilization, whether it be in the rural country or in the city, would lead, like you can come to the conclusions. It can be a red pill or blue pill. Like you can understand it, like red pill, oh, I'm just a cog in the machine. Blue pill, oh, I get to clock out at freaking 4 o'clock or something. But I think that the different dichotomies, like even though they both have their own blue pill and red pill aspects, they can lead to different pills, like the black pill, right? So you go to work and you're just another desk jockey or whatever, and you're just like, this is my life, I accept this, and you do it just out of the fact that you have to do it. Like, I have to make a paycheck, I have to pay rent, and I have no choice. That would be black pill, right? Or if you go out to the countryside, you can think, oh, I'm just a poor person and I can't go to the city and become anything else. That would be black pill. But then there's the white pill, like, which I would think would be like the more euphoric side of it. I might be messing up these pills or whatever, but I'm sure a lot of people get
I
these.
would prefer to stay on topic on the red pill versus the
Sure, yeah, absolutely. But
Maybe time
basically,
at the end.
I'm just saying that both aspects, I think, carry their own blue pill or red pill dichotomies.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there because unfortunately, like, yeah, you could start off at red pill, but your conclusion through observation could possibly lead you to black pill if you end up letting, I guess, the worst of everything get to you, because that's kind of a main focus inside your life. Because everyone's different, so our personalities are different. Someone's more on side of the side of themselves, and maybe they get more mentality, and they only on everything that's bad that's going on. They'll get a cynical viewpoint of the world or their country or what's going on. Period. They'll get just a. I'm not saying ignorant. It's just a one-sided viewpoint that maybe they need to branch out and see something good for once, and kind of give themselves a break on that, because it leads to very, very, very bad type of thinking if you're going to be cynical just as much as if you're too lighthearted about everything and only see the good is just as bad as the bad. You have both spectrums on the sides, and you have to see the pro con, everything that goes on. There's something, everything that bad happens, there's always that's going to be something that's maybe not through the spectrum of how bad it was. Same thing, vice versa. But something can come out of it that could be at least progress towards the right direction.
And
You go
sorry.
ahead.
Well, I
No.
was just gonna say, the maybe the I guess the appearance of civilization in itself. Well, I would think that that would be a red pill thing. Like, for instance, like the reason why we built cities with walls and stuff like that was to protect our young and our women and stuff like that, people who couldn't protect themselves, old people and stuff, from the harsh elements on the outside. But because we created this from a red pill perspective, people who are within those walls, within the cities or civilization, tend to develop more of a blue pill mindset and are ignorant of the harsh realities and truth that are outside of their realm. And we're seeing this within our own society today, right? Like, everything seems to be going awry and stuff like that, and we have like spoiled pretty much everyone's acting like spoiled children, and entitled to their own opinions or their beliefs in such ways. Whereas we didn't see this kind of mentality from a different generations, such as the generation that came after the World War II, right? We had the 50s and stuff like that, and that's like, I guess, America's golden era or whatever. Even though that time had its own problems and stuff like that, I'm just trying to point out the types of mentalities that could arise from basically over indulgence or lack of exposure to the truths. Red pill, I guess.
Is anybody in? So I want to. This leads me to my next question, and this is really for anybody. Is anybody in the process of and I want to hear more long stories. If and this is where I kind of want to lead to, like, on the side of, what do you guys do you believe in the other pills, and if you believe in the other pills, you can be open to talk about it, especially if Sir Polly is here. He already in past discussions brought up the ideas of being red pill by being in a less urbanized area. I don't know if Polly is here, but anybody who is willing to bring up any opinions on them, or they're in the process of being red pill, or going on the journey of being a red pill or a blue pill. Anybody who is open to talk about that. It's similar to the question, but that's already if you're red pill. Does anybody in the process of on red pill, or process of becoming non-existent to a blue pill philosophy and red pill philosophy? And if that is, anybody can speak up. I like to
I
hear
just-
any voice.
And can I speak
sorry.
on one thing
Go ahead.
about the purple pill real quick, because that's possibly like the most self-destructive one, which I could believe personally inside the American economy and our social aspect, that there's probably a good margin inside the percentile of every bit of our population that is very much that type of way, where they see what the issue is, but they choose not to go towards that issue because another way is better, because that's kind of how we kind of conditioned to be like. And unfortunately, that just kind of leads into a very bad area, which I just wanted to point that out, is that that's a very bad mentality out of all those, because you know what's wrong, but you don't want to do anything about it, much less feel like you have the means to do it. So you're letting your own self defeat yourself.
Well, I
Right.
parachuted in, so in answering that question,
I
I would
believe
just like
Sir
people.
Price had the mic.
It's fine. I just wanted people to. I want to hear individual perspectives on what you think the red pill is. Uh, First and foremost, that's all I'd add, along with if you're red pilled or what led you to be red pilled.
Yes, I'll
Well,
keep
can
it
I answer
short
the last
because
question that was put out? When someone was mentioning about countryside and city side, right? I'd just like to put out in this perspective that, like, we all come from the country, right? And then some of us have ideas. We gather together and we work extra hard because we're doing something extra curriculum. Like, this thing here is not a part of nature or the natural order. And the guys in the country, you guys can, farm, fish, you maintain the rivers, maintain the land because the land sustains you, right? But in the city, we can do different things. We can, like, fuck up the land, turn it into concrete because it serves a different purpose. But if we do that to the whole world, then we don't have any food. So I think, in a way, like, in our society, like, the cities would be probably, like, they can be blue pilled in a way, in saying that, like, sometimes we have to force ourselves to work and, do 9 to 5s and overtimes, etc., etc. We're just basically giving our lives away for this corporation. But if that means that our future and our progeny can be more educated and better off, then possibly it's not so much of a blue pill thing. Sometimes we need that because it's different, like the opposite is the countryside where you don't always have that, creature comforts, etc., etc. So I could see, like, how kids from the country, they'd be more, I guess, red pilled ways because they know how the natural order works. What one of the bros was talking before, like the Amazon basin. There's shit happening in the world all the time, everywhere. And just because someone out there is building bridges or doing this great stuff doesn't mean that that's, like, any more exciting. It's just a certain thing that's happening. Like, so in a way, like, sometimes when you're doing the 9 to 5 and stuff, it can be blue pilled, right? Like, you're just sweating it out and slaving away. But say if it's for a better purpose or something, I don't think you're necessarily, like, a blue pill, or maybe you adopt a black pill perspective and go, fuck it, I'm in this job forever. That's what it is. But if that means my kids who, like, I lived on a farm. I used, I migrated to this country. I started working. I've had kids now. I don't want them to go back to that lifestyle. I want them to have a good lifestyle. So if I sweat it away, they might have some better perspective.
Yeah,
I would agree with that entirely. I mean, my dad grew up on a farm. He didn't have running water till he was 13, I believe, 13 or 14. But he didn't try to idealize that and give that to us. And the only other thing I'd say from a historical perspective, if you're too hung up on like the simple life, then you're the Gauls, dude, and Caesar's going to show up one day. Like, you know what I mean? Like an urbanized society is going to come in and wreck your shit and be like, no, this is how it actually goes. Or the Boers in South Africa. It's like, we're farmers, we're independent. Yeah, but then the greatest empire in the world comes through and shows you different. The whole point of mankind, obviously what Sansei just said about you can't turn everything into a city. I don't think we have. I don't think we're close to that, but I do agree with that. You got to have you got to have a rural population to manage rural areas. But the whole point of man is that we've not just attained the top of the food chain, we've exited it. I mean, you're only in the food chain if you go into a national park or out into the wilderness. Like it's supposed to be the control of nature, respect of it to be sure, but the control of nature. So if you're trying to get back to it and you feel like that's the ideal situation, you'll be a tough guy, no doubt, or woman, but civilizationally and like Sansei brought up for your children, I don't think that's the optimal way to go.
So
one thing last point I'd like to bring up was then, in a way, it seems like because it's relevant to what we're talking about, purpose. So if we're living in the countryside and all of us, we live like well with the country, and I say, guys, I want to make this temple and I want to make some warriors, and you're like, why, dude? That's extracurriculum. Like it's outside of the food chain, etc. Now you guys are making your own stuff and you don't have to rely on any of the nature. And it's like, yeah, but I need to do this to defend our land, right? So if there's a purpose, I guess, then kids might be inclined to join that profession and go, hey, look, I know I'm going to sacrifice having a wife and kids, going out with my loved ones, partying it up and stuff because I might fight and die. But if that means that that we can have this thing here that I love, then it's all right. So I guess you can translate that to work as your 9 to 5. My mom and dad doing like work on Saturday, Sundays, whatever. I think like purpose makes a difference in whether you're red pilled or blue pilled. I guess as well. I'd say because I can't just judge anyone and go, hey, that guy's blue pilled. Say if he's actually slugging it out, sucking up the boss's dick, just to say he can get his kids through college or something, then all respect to him. It's a sacrifice the dude's making that I can see, because that's
So
the environment he's in. Go on.
the
Well, we can
portrayal. Okay, go ahead.
I'll let you speak after. What we all know from this is we come to the understand either both lifestyle, blue pill, an individual's life is a sacrifice. That sacrifice, you're going to sacrifice something. And so that's what I wanted to bring up. And then you continue talking, Mr.
Okay, well, the portrayal I just heard was a hard life in the country, and then a better life in the city, and but we just got to remember that it's like the cities actually have a higher rate of productivity per capita, and there are many people in the countryside living excellent lives with every modern convenience you could imagine. Like it's not like everybody out in the country is working a farm job like with hard physical labor. I mean, the country has doctors and lawyers and every career you could imagine. But that being said, what you have in the city is this grueling, noisy, like polluted, like high population density environment where you're gonna constantly be woken up in the middle of the night with like some car going by with some bassy rap or something, or like last time I was in the city, like woken up in the middle of the night with like people shouting and homeless people just making lots of noise and like I mean, every day you're gonna see like homeless tent camps and the people in despair within the city. Well, you're a lot less likely to be exposed to all of that horrible human experience like out in the country. And even out in the country, there's people living more or less independently from society. Like I met a guy. I'm sure he would go get like a construction job. Let's say in San Antonio, he would just get on a bus, which is extremely cheap. He'd go out to the country, and he would just fish and camp. And like he he didn't have to work much, and like sure he didn't have it all luxurious, but he loved what he was doing. And it's just like that's probably more free than like, let's say, a miserable position in the city where you have absurdly high rent and you're working extremely long hours like just to break even. And
Well, I mean, you're an American, so I mean, there's it sounds like you might be Canadian, but I mean, there's a third option in the suburbs. Like, not everyone in a city lives in a central business district. B, I mean, city life can be. I've lived both. City life can be just as tough. I mean, it's not all convenience and sunshine and rainbows, which I know is not what you just said, but just to remind the class. And also, I mean, having lived in poverty or in the rural areas in a very rural state, that's not a bunch of yeoman farmers either. In fact, they're more fucked because it's the lack of density of population is not worth the investment to put jobs there, to put insurance there, to put a hospital in. I mean, you have plenty of people living destitute and they have nothing. If you visit my distant cousins in Eastern Kentucky, they're not benefiting from a rural life. So I mean, poverty is no respecter of population density. And I guess my general point would be, having the son of someone who lived in that for real, like lagging 1950s and 60s America, like actual like shit that we only think happens in Africa nowadays, but happened to him. And then having lived in the 21st century of that, I'd be slow, very slow, to idealize or even champion as better any urban or rural existence.
Yeah, but as you can see the pros inside the rural lifestyle, right? Which is basically you know the cycle of life pretty well. You've been synthesized to it, especially if you grow up on like a farm, something like that, where you kill cattle, things like that. You kind of understand and grasp the concept of mortality, right? But unfortunately, those understandings of us as living beings kind of hard to apply that to modern city life society as someone who grew up inside a city would be able to understand. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, whoever grows up in the city is going to be able to easily conform probably into the modern society and be able to grasp that concept of wherever they're at, that any other city is probably going to be around that area, the local community, how it is, depending on how people act. Versus rural boy doesn't know anything about it if he goes to the big city. But he does have the understanding, the grasp, and the concept of what like mortality is. Maybe has more of a compassion, more of a less fast-paced lifestyle, and have more of a humble ideology. And so, that being said, it's like both sides will have the pros and their cons. It's just which can you adapt, basically? Can you adapt to what you're doing? Do you have the will? Do you have the able to do it? You will if you push yourself. I feel personally that I've experienced it myself, but not me. But yourself, you could get a lot than you think. It's just unfortunately there are some things where you have to bite your lip and adapt to. Period. Like, it's just because if you don't, you're gonna let it run over you, and you're gonna be left in the dirt. That's the reality of that situation. That is kind of a part of the red pill narrative, is that unfortunately adaptation is a huge part of seeing reality, seeing the broader picture, seeing the whole thing. Is that you have to accept the reality of the situation. You cannot be in denial, and if you are, you can't be there for long. Like you
That's
have
very
to.
Well,
important.
I would
Wait,
agree
that's very
with
important
that.
what he mattered on the red pill. I'll let you speak just afterwards, but on this debate, what he
Yeah,
said.
you're good.
So adaptability. So it's like what I've figured out, right? We've been talking a lot, but then what defines a person? Because it seems to me that a blue pillar can know all these things and still live their life, right? But the red pillar then is the adaptability, and then what you just said then, bro, not being that way for long because you've adapted and now you've overcome. So I think is the red pill is, one is the thought, but the actual, you know, part of being a red pill is enacting that thought, and changing the life. Because what is learning all these things for? What is the point of learning all these differences? Who rules you in that? I think it's to make some adequate change there because we're all, naturally just men or women or, human beings that are inclined to work and make a difference in our life. Adaptive, go on, my bro. I just wanted to point that out for the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
So
absolutely right.
I
And
would
all
like
is
to bring
all
up.
is you, by the way. Saying the
I
same.
mean, I'm not a flack for modern society necessarily. I mean, I might have some, by American standards anyway, left wing economic ideas, but socially, I'm pretty conservative, and that's something I appreciate about rural life, and that's something I was raised with that my father, retained from his upbringing. But I would just say, the closer you are to nature, the more at its mercy you are, and that's why ever since the Sumerians invented cities, people were like, we'll romanticize that from our flat in downtown, but fuck that, we're not actually going to live in that. So I mean, when it comes to rural life, I mean, it it has its values and it definitely has its virtues, but as far as like if I want to live like a man or a woman rather than an animal, it's like, you know, urban or suburban life is definitely the way to go, which is why it's been developed for all
Now I'm
these
gonna
millennia.
Now I'm gonna open the mic for everybody, and I'm gonna usher in the next topic. Now anybody can. So we're talking about red pill versus blue pill, obviously. So I want anybody to bring up any topic and any topic you want. Now this is like free run, free questions. Like what's honest? Have an honest debate. If it's blue pill, red pill, whatever you want. Well, let's move past the urbanization. I think we kind of met a middle ground in that. Now let's do. Anybody wants to do any question and what's kind of just like which is almost free fire if like things are blue pill,
Well, I have
red
something.
red pill, and like how you view it. And
I
so
have something
I'm
I'd
just gonna
like.
leave that there. It's open discussion. Anything can be. It can be anything. It has to be in the spectrum of
Can
the
you not
rules.
hear Lee?
Yeah,
He's trying to.
I have something I'd like to say. Um, I don't know what
For 2 hours.
category. I don't know what category you'd put it in, right? But I'm quite intrigued. I used to live in a seaside town. This was years ago. On the other side of the country that I live in, which is England. It was called Newquay, which is a seaside town in Cornwall, which is the back of beyond. It's basically just a little town, little fishing town in the middle of nowhere. I was a chef there, and I met a guy who ended up becoming a really good friend of mine. I believe he still lives there. I haven't spoken to him for a while, but I've lived on the other side of the country for years now. But he was the classic blue pillar, right? As you call it, blue pillar. So he had a job, as Surprise was saying. He had ridiculous rent. Basically, he was a slave to a landlord, paying his rent and just working his socks off in a regular job, and that was his life, right? And one day, so he did that for years, decades. He was. When I met him, I was about 27 or 26, I think. When I met him, no, 27, something like that. And he was about 52. So he had been doing that for a couple of decades. Just basically just working, paying your rent, and just having a box standard blue pill life, right? And one day, he just walked away. Literally, just walked away. So he just walked away from his flat, walked away from his life, and he spent about 10 years, almost 10 years,
just walking around Europe. He had a tent, so he'd sleep in his tent, and he did casual work wherever he could, and he had some money saved up because he was just living as a drone for sort of 20 years or something. Because not all your money goes straight into your rent and your utilities, does it? You're always going to be able to save a little bit. He just basically just walked around. It ended up being for 10 years, and he just. But the main thing is, he just walked away. He walked away from this blue pill life. Literally just walked away. Literally walked away, though. You know, actually just walked. Physically just walked away. So I don't know what category that is in. I think that's uncommon, but he was a happy guy. That's the best thing. I think that's the best decision he made in his life. So I don't know what other people's opinion on that is, but he spent almost 10 years just walking around Europe. So you walk to one town, see if you can get some casual work. If you can't, then you just pitch up your tent anyway, and you just sleep, and you keep walking to another place, and you meet people on the way. You know, others like you as well. I suppose it could be called being a drifter, but it's a strange one. What's other people's opinion on that?
I think, bro, what he's doing is like, in a sense, it's like he's lived this life and he's seeing in his dreams when he comes home every night after this, like he's stuck to his landlord, like he's saying he's chained. So he was like, hell, there's all these other people in the world doing whatever. Like, what's the worst that could happen if I give this all up? And so he did it, and he found out that, you know, he could go, like, as you said, go from town to town and pick up jobs. So he'd be picking up random jobs, and he'd have to, like, you know, he can't be, you know, stuck in his room all day. He has to go out and be, you know, confronting people, talking to people, not aggressive, but, you know, trying to win a job and things. So he might have learned a lot of things. So I guess that would be like, in a red pill in a way. I guess he's just come to this conclusion that this life is not sustainable for me. I was born for better things. And even if it means I'm a drifter, well, that way I don't have to pay airfare companies, you know, the hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars for every trip, and I can just, you know, meet real people. You know,
I mean, it's the mentality, isn't it? Like, I think everyone should have that. So I'd say a large percentage of people don't have that mentality. They see life as something that's set out in front of them, and they just have to just do that. You know, here's a good example. I don't know if it's the same in your country, but children, they go to school, then they do their A levels, then they go to university, right, and then they get a job. That's just set out in front of them. I mean, what I find absolutely strange and interesting is lots of kids, 18-year-old kids, they just choose something to go to university for, right? This is complete blue, as you say, this is the epitome of blue pilling, right? They basically, it's like, oh, I've got to go. The next stage is university. What should I do? Oh, that'll do. You know, you should go. A university is a place of study, you know, and you're listening to the people who are the scholars of that subject, the lecturers. You should be passionate about that subject, you know. But now it's just almost like a farm for just a knowledge farm for these large corporations to get good drones. You know, it's strange. Like, I mean, for example, my little sister is a classic example. She's not even. I can't remember what she went to do actually. She's a half sister. She's a distant sister. I don't really speak to her, to be honest. But she did a subject that she wasn't even interested in, and lots of her people in her class are not even really interested. It's like, oh, I can do that. I guess I could probably pass that. Yeah. Anyway, you understand my point of view, right?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I
It's
totally get it. I won't turn this into a rant on college education and price in America, though. So someone else.
Hello, guys.
Yeah. I understand, but I think that's a classic example of blue pilling. And I mean, I didn't know about my friend Kev. His name was. I didn't know about his education, but I think he had a pretty good job. I can't remember it was so many years ago. it wasn't just some, it was a fairly good. I think he was a foreman for in some kind of factory or something. So he was quite an educated guy. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you'd sort of class that as. Someone who's, well, I think it's blue pill to the extent blue pilling is very unnatural. Being a drone is unnatural. Humans need to express themselves. Humans need to. They have a yearning to do. They have to. If you're just following this thing that's led out to you and you're just doing it, it's almost like it's almost like a lifetime meditation, isn't it? You're just doing these things. And with my friend Kev, that's an example of people literally just, I guess, just walk away from it because it's
Well, and that's why I'm interested in people's views on what red and blue pilling is, because for some of us, we have an old school view of it where it's like, no, you do your duty and it sucks to suck, who cares? You're doing this for you later or your family later or to support your wife, whatever it may be. Doesn't really matter if you like it. And then others of us have a more recent, present day to 40 years ago, boomer, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z view where it's like, being red pill is saying fuck it, just doing your own thing. So I mean, it kind of depends on, and I'm not gonna come down on one side or the other. Not like it matters. I'm not the judge, but it matters what your value system is on what you feel like the honorable system is. Is it individualistic or is it no? You're special in a way because there's no one like you, but at the same time, you are a cog in the machine, and you need to come to terms with that. It's are you Tyler Durden or are you a soldier or sailor, in the armed forces? Do you do it for the collective or do you do it for yourself? That's gonna have a huge impact on what you think is blue pill or red pill. Because the latter group's gonna say you walked away from a great job, you're a fucking idiot. Like, yeah, you got to see Europe, that's fine, I guess, but you didn't get to see Asia. By that metric, is that any better? Like, you just bankrupted yourself, and other people are going to say, hey, you're not a drone anymore. That's great. Like, you did it for you. So it kind of depends.
I think with my friend Kev, the idea of, I mean, he actually ran out of, he did kind of, I suppose, bankrupt. He didn't have any money. He wasn't a rich man. But yeah, I suppose he did bankrupt. He just walked away from, but it's the realization of what things actually are. It's the realization. Some people who are stuck in their ways might say it was a mental breakdown, but it wasn't. He was a perfectly fine kind of person. He's absolutely fine. He's a hilarious guy, really funny guy. He just decided that, well, what's the point? What's the point in me just slaving away just to live in this property when you can just live anywhere, really, can't you? I mean, that, I don't know what pill you'd call that, but I mean, lots of people wouldn't like the idea of doing that, but
Well,
it's realization. I think it is like red pilling to the red pilling. Red pill is the realization of reality. I'd say. I think that's the.
well, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Ramos.
Plain and simple. It's just that red pill is the truth and blue pill is the illusion or the lie. And so, yes, every individual is going to have their own interpretation of that, but that's really what it is, pure and simple.
Mm.
But
Yeah, well,
so, so the truth to him could have been that he doesn't have a job or enjoy it. Else, like there's people in life that probably have chosen a profession as well. Like, I was brought up like that as well. Do engineering or something like that, doctoring, lawyering or something. And, if you don't like it, like I say, you're going to have to learn things anyway to adapt to it, yeah? And then at the end of the day, it's for your security. So, like, I could have gone out and spent time, partying and enjoying life and things like that. I had to study. So, I think it's the truth. The truth is whether like this or be. I think that's enough as well.
I think Dexter had the mic, so I think he was trying to.
Oh yeah, it's all good. I mean, Sensei did jump in there before me, but I mean, I did want to ask the question, like, when we say red pill is the truth, what is that truth? And when we say blue pill
Unpleasant
is
truth.
the lie.
May I speak a narrative on that sense too?
Okay.
I think that the red pill can basically pertain to anyone's personal philosophy because as we're all individuals, no matter how uncommon we're going to see things, there's always going to be something different with it within our personal individual reality of seeing something, right? That's the concept of that, right? But the red pill is making sure that honestly that you keep the general aspect of seeing the bigger picture, adapting, and finding a solution to the issue that you see before you at hand, which is the reality of the broader spectrum of what's has an obvious distraction from. And then from there you do what you could do best as the individual that you are, which is the best way you know how. Right? But the general narrative is that you see a reality, you either have an adaptation to it, a solution, or a possible, at least just a realization of it, whether or not there's something to do about it or not. The least you could do is be able to make sure that you are going to be able to get the best that you can out of it and be able to get out somewhere on top if you're having to trudge uphill with it. And that goes along with, on a personal aspect, I could do something and you could do something, but I could do it differently inside of my technique. You could do it differently in your technique. We'll both get the same result, right? Or come out with a similar result, if not near about the same. That being said, that's the same thing as that long as if people who feel red pilled inside that narrative hold together and find that solution inside, find a solution no matter where the means that you get there, I think that's probably the best outcome because I feel like that people need to kind of come together inside of a broader aspect like that. People who do see that reality, people who do see what the bigger issue is, who need to come together as a group to be able to get some type of word out of that because unfortunately there's no word really about it that has even a voice.
Okay,
I have a-
so it's about the truth and the illusion, and the truth is that most of us are going to just be team players. We're not going to be the leader. Most of us aren't going to get rich. It's like the reality is nitty and gritty and is rough, but and then the illusion it seems beautiful. It seems simple, comforting. Like the illusion basically works like a carrot on the stick. Like you run your whole life on a treadmill, but yet if you're blue pilled, you think that you're moving, and if you're red pilled, you realize that you're on a treadmill, and then maybe you think, well, at least I'm getting my cardio in. But yeah, it's like perfection is going to be different to everybody. I mean, it's like if you're a Democrat, then you're going to think that the Democrats are red pilled, and vice versa with the Republicans. It's just that. But the fact is, politicians in general are the ones offering you a comforting lie. So just believing in the false like two-party system is basically the blue pill, and it's like, so going in and accepting the company line and saying, yeah, I'm going to work my way up and be the boss one day. Well, that's not true for 99, 95% of the people who go in and believe that. And so, okay, go
So
ahead.
just to make sure I'm not sure I'm in you, red pill's basically life is shit, and blue pill's like life is good, right?
Totally wrong.
No,
I didn't
yeah,
hear
that's
you say that.
definitely totally wrong. It's like red pill is life is what you make of it. I would think personally, and what is the reality is there, and common sense will usually lead you to a solution there. But and not letting your bias or ignorance or possible judgment through that biased opinionated concept get in the way of that. As blue pill is just ignorant bliss to what the actual problem is.
So my biggest question for everybody, because we kind of got the basis, and so everybody has their own opinion, but I want to ask on a perspective, what do you think is the biggest collective red pill and blue pill historically speaking? And I'm maybe if anybody wants to chime in, new voices, or it doesn't matter. What is your opinion? What is the biggest collective red pill and blue pill?
So, like, the biggest group that there ever has been of red pill and blue pill?
Yeah, like historically speaking.
Sure. So, if we define red pill as that life is what you make it, wouldn't literally every single human being be a red pillar? Well, of course, we'd have some like weirdos be a blue pill, but
Well, everybody has their own opinion. So I said at the beginning, and I don't. A lot of people are new in here. So my opinion was, the red pill is unpleasant truths, and I said that the blue pill is blissful ignorance. So along the lines of that, or any opinion, anybody with their own opinion, what do you think is the biggest like collective historical red pill on your own definition, and the largest collective red pill and blue pill, basically? And I
Well,
would
the best example I can come up with off the top of my head is like when the United States essentially seceded from the British Empire, and it's like so they had to accept fighting the greatest military power on earth, or just believing in the lie that of the crown. You know, it's like so together they took the rough, uncertain future of freedom and independence. And then, I mean, it's like, then it really paid off. I mean, see, it's like it was bitter, but then it was sweet. Like, I mean, that's kind of what the red pill really is. It's not all dark and horrible.
I mean, for example, the people,
well.
the conquerors, these British conquerors, were certainly red pill, weren't they? That's the definition of red pill. They conquered other countries. You know, imagine what kind of mindset these people had. It's fucking intriguing, really, isn't it? You know.
Well, no, because like they did it for queen and country. Like they were subjects to the crown. Like they were the conquered, essentially, not the conquerors.
Also, you can have a pretty unsophisticated reason to just be expanding your power. I mean, you might say like the Islamic conquests, they might have been alpha Chad, but were they red pilled? I don't think so.
but I mean, if
Anyone
we're
who,
saying,
sorry,
sure, go ahead.
anyone who takes over a country or goes across an ocean with very primitive sort of technology and conquers a nation is definitely a red pill kind of mindset. I think anyway. You might disagree.
Yeah,
That's
part of definitions.
Can I put
Well,
in
only
that
in
when
the
you see
sense
these
that
guys,
red pill.
like I'll say
Red
this one thing
pill.
quick.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. No,
I don't
no, no.
want to be far
You.
away. Yeah, I'll say it this way. So, like, yeah, what the boys were saying before, like, say if you have to take on an empire, whether it's technologically advanced, etc., because you know that your way you've been doing things has worked for thousands of years, right? That's why your women are happy and your men are happy. And so, if you try and fight that big empire and those big guns because you believe you're saving something good, I think that could be red pilled as well. So, if you're looking at it from the conqueror's perspective, that they are red pilled, I don't think so either. They're going and destroying other like civs or fighting other nations, right? With no real idea of what they're losing or what they're fighting against. You know, in terms you're all human, you could like actually learn something, but you never know.
a
Depends what
really
conquest it's
interesting
for.
point. That's a
Depends
really
what
good.
conquest it's for as well. So like
That's
in that point,
yeah.
what you said, the last one I had was like, if I think about like my family and that, like we've, like, you know, I'm here Hindu. That means that like Islam has tried to, you know, convert us and Christianity has and all these other things. But the fact that I can still have my peace of mind and my soul to myself is like, that's, you know, that would be for me. I think to see past other things and see, look, this life works for me and it's fine. If that life works for you, it's fine as well. It doesn't really, you know, get in my way. I think that's red pilled as well, like what the bro was saying before. All human beings today, I guess, in a way, that are alive and work in the system.
Yeah, that's
I
a
don't know.
massively interesting
There's many
point. I
global
mean,
orders. There's many global orders in effect on Earth right now. So there's something. I think there's 3 active economic orders. There's many religious orders. So there's all kinds of segments and groups, and then the UFO nerds talk about how there's the Dark Alliance and the Cabal and all this stuff. There's also cartels within corporations. There's all kinds of things, and the central banking system is like 8,500 bankers that are in charge of these things. Every country has one except like Venezuela, Iran, and North Korea. And the ones the military has on target, riling up with the mainstream media about what to target. But so the global hegemony on Earth is shifting at a faster pace right now, and so it's not like whose side are you on necessarily, because there's something called Thucydides' trap, and that's where when the economic hegemony changes over, there's generally a fight, and so their fear is that when China becomes a bigger economic powerhouse, there's going to be a hot war. So this concept of red pill goes away when it's communists coming for your fucking children. I mean, which is what will happen, because the next war will be fought with sticks and stones. There will be no fourth world war. Like, we will all be. I mean, China has nukes. They don't have as many, but the United States has 6,000 warheads aimed all over the planet. The Russians have 7,000. So the real red pill is realizing that you're on a fucking prison planet, that the religious and the economic hegemonies are all fighting and vying for your spirituality, whatever it is that could be. And at the heart of it is, Luciferian freaks that run our banking systems. Like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, this fucking planet is. The red pill is like a cover story for complacency, because there's no real red. If you take the real red pill, you're gonna go to wherever the heads of the central banking families are and try and fucking take them out or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, there's no red pill for a serf, for the low level guys. There's no red pill for the serfs anymore. This is all just a game to this groups on Earth that are starting to puppet us around still, and it's becoming more obvious because we have the internet now, so we can see it in real time a little easier with stats and everything, which they use too. So it's a double-edged sword to see these statistics. But yeah, I mean, it just depends on what your honor is, your integrity is. The side that you're on is the side of humanity, I suppose. But
Oh my God,
what's
NSA.
the side of freedom, though? I mean, like, what is your red pill? Are you going to be shut the fuck up, surprise? Are you going to be? Do you believe in a Bill of Rights and individual sovereignty and out my body, my mind, my whatever? I can think and do and say what I want to do, or do you believe in the far other side of the Chinese Communist Party that thinks the state should regulate everything, and you have to fucking have a credit score system to regulate whether or not you can get on a train if you didn't flip off your neighbor or some shit for pissing you off? Like, what world do you want your future your family to be in? Some of you don't even have families. Some of you will never have families. But what world are we leaving behind? And fuck you, surprise.
Okay, I want to tackle that so bad. I'll be back though in a second. Someone handle that.
Yeah, but it seems like the red pill, blue pill concept is kind of flying over the heads of a lot of the people here. It's like, it really isn't that complicated. I mean, like, so for like example, like what Leo said, of like, what about the British soldiers? Aren't they the most red pilled people ever? It's like that doesn't really apply to the whole metaphor. I mean, it's like I mean, it's like saying that Agent Smith in the Matrix was red pilled. It's like, what? Well, Agent Smith can't take the red pill and go into the real world. I mean, he is the system. I mean, so it's like the whole metaphor is also a part of like some sort of allegory of being oppressed under a system. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I just think that you guys are not just not getting it, like some of you here.
No, I understand. I mean, also it's relevant to who, everyone has a mindset, don't they, of what they believe is blue or red pill. But here's a good way of, the way I perceive it is, you're either a sheep or a shepherd. There's two different sorts of people in the world, I'd say, sheep or shepherd. If you're a shepherd, you control your life and you know exactly what's going on, and you run things. Or if you're a sheep, you want to be run by the shepherd. Simple as that.
Isn't this like kind of like the Hegelian dialectic with the master and the slave? Isn't this like the same thing?
Well, it's very similar. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But,
No,
it's
no,
more along the lines
no,
you
it
can.
really is.
It's more along the lines you can choose what, and some people choose the blue pill, and some people choose the red pill. Like, and that's what you can simplify in different metaphors. But we use red pill versus blue pill because it's more simple and people understand it's a little more than theoretical studies, philosophical ideas. It's a little easier to explain it red and versus blue pill, but it is very similar. We're making it a choice. You either have some people are born in a blue pill life. We have to understand that, and some people are birthed in a red pill. That's also interesting. Are we birthed into it too? If you
Well,
are, you learn from your parents. So maybe if your parents are blue pill, you'll learn to be blue pill. People, your parents tell you to go to university, and that's particularly a blue pill thing to get a job. Can be particularly viewed as. That's kind of interesting. Do you think you can be birthed into a blue pill life or a red pill?
Yes, but the thing is though about what Dex said about the Hegelian dialectic. The Hegelian dialectic is an illusion that you get trapped into. It's kind of literally the blue pill, and the red pill is seeing past the Hegelian dialectic. And then as far as to what Jace said, it's about being born into it. I mean, people do assimilate the belief systems of the families that they're born into generally.
Well,
And then
I would
so
argue that the
the
Hegelian dialectic, though, is the ability to know it and then control it. So there are people that control on Earth the Hegelian dialectic by creating the order out of chaos concept. So they see a problem that they want to solve with a product or a solution, and they go and create and agitate the issue, and then come in with the solution to profit off of it. And that's where a lot of these very, very wealthy, and this is part of the mystery schools, esoteric religions of empire building, is the Hegelian. It comes out in the Hegelian dialectic, but to control that dialectic is to control the world.
but the thing is that if you're born as a tax slave, like sheeple type, and you don't see past that, then you're blue pilled. If you know, it's like if you see that you're a tax slave and you don't like the sheeple and you want to transcend that, then that means you've chosen the red pill.
Well, and for all the kids out there, like the world, there are powers. You never want to be like a surface level. I believe when I see on cable news, you don't want to be that dipshit, but the world is not as under control as our Texas friend here, NSA, is propagating.
Oh, fuck you! I don't think it's under control. Come on, like I said, there's many.
Well, you do though. You do though.
There's many global hegemonies, and there's many current economic world orders that have existed after the Enlightenment period in the 1700s that have evolved over the time from the dropping of the monarchistic system to like global democracy and constitutions and things like that. And right now there's about 3 on Earth, and China is one of them. .com.
Okay, well, you can't have 3 hegemonies. That negates the meaning of the word hegemony.
Economic, not like militaristic. There's a good
Not
documentary,
anything.
YouTube channel on finance. I can show you that talks about this.
Well, because if there's a hegemon, there's one. That's what hegemony means.
No, I was talking about Thucydides' trap with the hegemony of the world. The GDP of China is what I meant.
That's a whole
you're mixing up things.
I'm going to leave that alone.
Mixing up things. I'm talking central banking, the fiat system, gold backed, and things like that are going on right now on Earth. Like Russia is
what
kicking
is
out.
your problem with the fiat system? Why should we tie our economy?
More to blue pill versus red
But
pill?
these are the economic systems I'm referring to that do control societies in this world right now.
But I'm curious as to why you always bring up the fiat system. Like, why would you tie your economy to a finite commodity, whether that's gold or wheat?
Well, so there's been 665 fiat.
It's brought down to empires before.
All of the fiat currencies have gone to the value of 0. So there's not a single fiat currency that has lasted that has not gone to the value of 0. So right now we're living in an economic bubble created by Babylonian money magic, where we're printing money. This is old school fucking money magic shit.
You're not printing money.
Quantitative easing is literally what we do. Quantitative easing is we need money, so we print a bunch of fucking money
You don't print it.
reserve lending, and then what we do is we use that money to purchase things overseas, and that offloads our inflation. So now we have this fiat system that has been used, and the petrodollar is backed by the oil.
No, you don't, dude. You don't print it.
Right, guys,
I
can
would
we
like
just
to
not interrupt
remind
each
all
other
of
for a
you that
minute?
you might
Dude,
want to stay
we
on
like to
topic.
interrupt.
Hold on. NSA, there's like $200 billion worth of cash in the entire world. Like cash, even then you're going to buy a commodities thing. Most cash is digital. Like it's not even like, oh, the printing press goes burr. We assess the value. This is the value. Well, do we have enough gold on the planet to match that? Well, fuck no, but this is the value. That's why we have fiat.
So this would be
That's why our economy isn't $25 billion. And instead it's like 22 trillion. Because now the money supply actually matches both in cash and digital. The money supply actually matches the value of goods traded per year. There's nothing wrong with fiat per se.
Hey guys, abstain
You don't
from,
need
spamming
gold.
chat. Wait, hold up. If one person's talking on the mic, I know I just interrupted, but abstain from spamming on chat.
You're
There's a lot
fine,
of
you're
points
fine.
being made, and like if I can't understand what's going on, I don't see why how anyone else could. So it's like one person at a time. Topic was, I think it was reminded, like red pill, blue pill. I know we're going off at the tangent. I don't think anyone really minds, but yeah, let's keep it so we can understand. So go on. Who had the mic?
Yeah, good point. I apologize. I was just going to say that you don't tie your economy to it. There's nothing wrong with fiat. I mean, if we went by any given commodity, the Canadian economy would be like $2 million. It's like you want a money supply that actually reflects the value of goods being sold in any given year, or if you go by Credit Suisse's national wealth system, the value of actual assets minus liabilities in any given country.
Right. That's just
which
what
is
I was
like-
saying was the current one of the many economic orders that are on Earth right now, because fiat is not the only system of monetary value right now.
Well, it isn't, but it's the ideal.
I don't think so. I think it's ridiculous. But
Well,
it's good for growth.
We're off topic though. We need to round this back.
Tie it back in somehow. Tie it back in. So it's like, all right. So we've been talking about economy. So understanding that we're all part of an economy sometimes if we're working, and that this economy can be designed to keep, those who are in the know with that certain knowledge in those points of position. And already someone else pointed out before that even if we all know this knowledge, not all of us will ever get to that boss point one day. So would you say that being red pilled is like, these things exist, and then if you wanted to partake in them, partake, but with the knowledge in mind that you won't, that you possibly could, but there's high chances against you. So you got to apply yourself to what you do and be adaptive if you're going to take that path in life. Yeah or no?
I think even discussing it or even being intrigued by it in any sense, you are definitely someone who would be a leader in some sense, whether it's just leading a few employees in a small business or leading 1,000 employees in a large business. Most blue, as you say, blue pill kind of people, it doesn't even for 1 second come into their mind throughout their whole life to take it to another level. That's the thing. Blue pill, red pill, blue pill people literally don't think. It's set out and they just do it, and that's their life. Even discussing it as we are now makes you a red pill. Because you're discussing. You've thought about things. You're not happy with just being a drone. You think about things. You're a shepherd. You're not a sheep. You're a shepherd.
Can I speak on that? Has anyone brought up the NPC term, which I think might be related? Because when that came out, I thought, holy shit, there really are people that I talk to who are running this program so effectively that I can actually think of what they're going to say before they think of it, because I've got my argument and there's a pat response, and they'll just predictably spit out the same things. They really aren't thinking, just like Leo just said.
Well, and I agree with Leo's definition. I think red pill is just thinking about it. Because if you're a thoughtful person, you're going to come up with different explanations. I think I've said this before, but some of the smartest people I know politically have reached a Marxist conclusion. And despite my username, I'm very right. But I respect that more than just your average Fox or CNN user. That's kind of the problem I have with red pill. It's like it implies, well, I'm red pilled, therefore I know the truth. I'm a Marxist, or I'm a third positionist, or I'm a libertarian, or whatever. When I think red pill is just understanding in context, because it's not bullshit every time in history, even though at least someone's going to think it is at any given point. But when it is fucked up like it is, just understanding that, try to think your way through that, that's red pill. And it's not so much the conclusion you reach from that journey that you take. Your path's going to take you somewhere else. But I see everyone who doesn't accept the current narrative in this current fucked up time, again, not all times in history, that's red pill. It's the process rather than the destination.
Well, I would say certainly it's not enough to be right wing or to be conspiratorial minded in order to be red pilled. But can you you can certainly be intelligent and be a committed communist, but I'm not sure that the definition means much if you can be red pilled and be a committed communist.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, it's more of the process. It's not red pilled, and that's the problem with the Matrix, where this was literally invented back in 97 or 99, whenever it came out. It's like, well, I'm red pilled. I know the truth. Trademark comms, the truth INC. And it's like, well, if you recognize the problem, if you got the diagnosis right, everyone else thinks that it's measles and it's cancer, that you get points for that. But then if you think like, oh, well, my solution is, fruit juice enemas like Steve Jobs tried, it's like, oh, well, that sucks. But, the main thing is that you realize that something's up. Because politics is totally, if we're going to go with the political route and not the urban, rural, or whatever route, politics is subjective. I think I'm right. I think there are other people that are disastrous, but it's still opinion. There's no class you could teach on it. There's no, anything like that. So for me, it's like, I agree with you. Would I, in a different setting say like, oh, someone who's a committed Marxist is red pilled? It's like, no, I would never tell that to a Marxist to their face. But I think red pilled's so broad that you just have to go by recognizing there's a problem and not getting so hung up on the 50,000 solutions that people are offering.
It makes a lot of sense. I'll be quick. I just think Marxism is so at the heart of the debate. There's also like the feminist thing, but those are all wrapped up together. That if you actually care about human beings, and maybe I'm just stuck in my own thinking, but it seems like it's failed every goddamn time, and that the only way to support it is to fundamentally misunderstand human nature.
Yeah,
Well,
but
go ahead.
Sure thing. But hitting on what you both have said, I think you could have warned if we're defining red pills like you thinking for yourself and blue pill to being blissfully ignorant, like our example of that, someone who just watches CNN or some shit like that. You can award the term red pill and blue pill to any, I would say, political ideology. Because I know for a fact that there's like some Trump supporters that just see their like TikTok memes about Trump, like, hell yeah, Trump. Same thing goes with like the Bernie supporters or the Biden supporters. But I do want to, surprise you did say this, and I do want to hit on this, that you can say political opinions are subjective, but some are more correct than others. Of course, this is assuming like the natural context of policy, which is to maximize good. I think there are way more correct political positions than there are others. So I think you're kind of doing it a disservice when you call it subjective.
No, I would agree with that, obviously, but it's subjectively correct because everyone who has a political opinion will say that. So that's not me saying like, oh, we're all in this together, blah, blah, blah. No, like when the time comes when I'm not, 25 and people actually give a shit what I have to say when I finally enter politics, of course I'm not going to be given this. It's all subjective speech. But if I zoom out, it is a subjective view because what's a it's not even like what will work because for what I or you or Sir Snarl / Icarus thinks will work, like that's not even going to be the same like mode of success for every ideology. So that's what I mean. I don't mean that it's not moral subjectivism. I definitely have my own views. Everyone does. I'm just saying that it helps, and it helps you stay calm, and it helps you have perspective when you realize that we're all talking about opinions. And within your own framework, your opinion is the best, and then whatever's close to that is going to be closer. I think we're all on the same page here, but I also realize that other people would definitely call bullshit, and I'll fight them to the death. But I also understand that it's about opinions, and therefore it's about persuasion. It's not
One
about
thing
facts per se.
you, bro.
One thing we didn't talk about was the concept of the cipher characters. So, I personally believe that. Well, guys, I'll use Surprise as an example. I think he's a willing agent of the Matrix in a sense, in that he denies the control schema that's truly out there. The fact that there are other beings out there affecting our reality. The fact that they are manipulating and playing around like the source would be playing with. So I don't know. I can't figure out if he's the Cypher character that like saw it and is like, no, I want to go and be an agent instead and go be an actor or something and be a politician, knowing that there's all kinds of shit going on with aliens and everything else that is totally affecting our world governments. Because otherwise you are just that NPC. Everybody's the NPC. It's like Icarus was saying, I can tell what you're going to say about it because you want to stay NPC mode. And the fact that we're not accepting the fact that our societies are heavily influenced by these beings for 10,000 years is that red pill. And then but then they call people like myself mentally ill. So I don't know, man. I think the whole concept of what's, and then you laugh and then you joke about it, but it's
Well, I'm not laughing. Laughing.
Every admiral in the Navy has a neurocybernetic implant and is totally let in on the secret about these beings and what they're doing.
But dude, I'm not an admiral.
I know, but I'm saying
I'll say this briefly because I can't hog. Someone else needs to talk. But I'll just say I'm not an admiral. That's above my pay grade.
No, but you seem to be a willing participant in the Matrix in the sense. So you seem to be like a character that wants. You may be let in on some of the secrets of how the world is working, but you just don't care and want to ignore it and move along like nothing's like you didn't see anything, or like your cipher going back. You missed the taste of steak.
Or he's employed.
But I'll address that later. Someone else who had the mic. I'll address that later though.
So, I would like to bring in the conversation that we also have to take consideration. I actually wanted to bring I wanted to ask the question ever because I'm more along just asking questions and seeing where everybody is at. What do you would imagine? And what's I want to talk about jobs, and I'm just interested. What jobs do you think is blue pill, and what jobs are red pill? So what particular jobs are gonna be separated among lines? How are we gonna separate what jobs are red pill and what jobs are blue pill? Now, particularly a job can be anything, so that's why that's very broad, and I would have wanted to take it down. And in the United States of America, Canada, and then Americas, and and Western culture, what jobs are blue pill and what jobs are red pill? And I think that particularly leads to NSA's opinion because NSA would say, well, the government jobs are blue pill because they're following after the government, and whoever accepts the government. But I'm not going to go into that.
In my
I want to see
opinion,
everybody's
in my
Well, I was
opinion,
just going to say, I think CIA is red pilled because they are these agents that are let in on this secret, and MI6, etc., Mossad, the secret intelligence groups of the world that work in collaboration to do these kinds of international.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me just say one thing. Like I said with Sheep and Shepherd, right? you say which jobs, right? If you're a red pill, if you're a shepherd, it's not about which jobs you can get. It's about which job am I going to create. You can either get a job or create a job. Create a job for people or get a job for yourself. Red pill shepherds will create a job. They won't get a job. That's my opinion.
I could say it comes down to mentality of people as well. Like in construction, I've seen people that are blue pill, like people that just believe that the company will take care of them if they're company men, and they'll suck the boss's cock and do overtime and all that. Whereas I'll go to the pub at lunchtime and I'll have my smokes at lunchtime and still get my work done, but because I've got a good rapport with my boss and I know how that system works, I'll still get in. And I've seen, like, while I've been in like retail or I've been in like other government jobs, I've seen similar things, like where there are people who think like, they're on top of things just because they're in the know. But sometimes, your bosses won't tell you everything because they don't want you fucking up too much either or getting too much, independence. So that's another thing. So it's like, yeah, there's a point that one of the bros made as well, creating your own job. So I think when it comes to red pilling, it's more about the mentality of the person, less so than the job. Because even in judges, man, like even if a guy that knows the whole law system could be, like say if you're a legit judge and I'm a corrupt judge, yeah? I mean, I got the same backing by the community. My daughters are going to go to college all good like yours. But, I've got mafia behind my back now and you don't. So maybe that was, a choice that, you would have wanted to make now if you're in competition with me because I can use this against you. So I don't know, but I'd like to hear other people's views on this. What do you think is in profession?
Well, I mean, I'm an American, so it's kind of, a pet peeve, but I just got kind of triggered by the job creator thing simply because demand creates jobs. More businesses fail than succeed because they tried to create jobs, but the demand wasn't there. But I see what you were saying, like having, some initiative and whatnot. This isn't a labor relations thing. But I would just chime in to say that Sansate's correct. It's not really about the job per se. It's more about the individual within it. I'm a nationalist. I kind of poo-poo, again, American bias because we're so individualistic. I kind of poo-poo any focus on the individual, but I would say that in this case, that definitely applies. I mean, you can be a red pill postal worker. You can be a blue pill hedge fund manager. It all kind of depends on your individual career. I would never. I mean, there are jobs I make fun of, like just being a dick, horsing around, but I'd never make fun of like a whole industry as being blue pilled. Absolutely not, unless people start getting paid for white knighting.
So
Okay,
what
Jace,
is I would
sorry, go on.
We're trying to select.
I was
who
gonna
is
say
good.
I wanted to hear if Shogun wanted to talk. I was interested in what he has opinion. He really didn't have opinion the entire time, so I wonder what his opinion.
This has been a great episode. It's been a pretty long episode. I've just been listening to everybody's takes. I think it's probably a relatively good point to wrap it up, unless anyone has closing remarks. But thank you. That was a really good one.
So I would just want to ask one last question to end the podcast. Do you think we to some degree we've met a middle ground?
What do you mean by
Good
that?
question. Sorry.
What
Go on.
do you mean by that? Develop that a bit.
Like we met some mutual agreement.
Well, who disagreed? And on what?
Well, NSA thinks that if you don't believe in the Anunnaki or whatever, that you're not actually red pilled. And correct me if
But
I'm
didn't we just observe that?
mischaracterizing.
Well, but it's
Okay.
something not. It's not your fault, though. You know what I mean? Like you don't have access. Like, not a lot of people have access, so I don't really think it necessarily that way. But I think that people that have access to it, that still remain in reality and pretend it's not happening, are the ones that are protecting the Matrix, like yourself.
Okay, you know what? It's a simple answer. I typed it to you, Jace. The job title's useless. Rank is everything. The higher the rank, the more they control information. Simply put. That was it. Nothing else. Sorry, gentlemen. Go on, please.
Ruthless. I
see that.
like it. I like it. Just, yeah, no. Respect.
Merlin, you about to say something, bro?
No, I just said I didn't see that. I actually kind of agree with that, but Shogun, do you think this is a good place to stop? Do you guys
Yeah,
ever?
I do.
Yeah, we've discussed a lot of things and learned a lot of things from each other, and like made whatever the term was in our heads independently. It's now more verbose with stories to add to it, and with these stories and experiences, we've got a little bit more truth that we can glean from it. So yeah, thanks for sharing everything, boys.
Yeah, good.
Thanks, everybody.
Good discussion. Yeah.
As always, so why don't we close here? Everybody can jump up to round table 1 or whatever, and we'll continue conversing up there. You can find us on our YouTube channel, on BitChute, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. The Roundtable server on Google is our Discord home. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you upstairs, and join us again tomorrow for more podcasts. We'll be talking about China, and I'm not sure what else is coming up, but you can check the schedule. Thanks, everybody.